All right, good morning. We're so happy that you guys have joined us today for our first virtual ag tour of the 2025-2026 school year. I'm Katie Akins with Arizona Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom, and we are excited to be here today with Ashlee Mortimer of Mortimer Farms to learn all about pumpkins here in Arizona. Before we get started, though, just a couple of things I want to make you aware of. One is we love questions. So if you have questions of Ashlee as we are making our way through this virtual tour, please type them in the chat box. Once they're in the chat box, we will go ahead and answer those live. If I don't do it the moment you type it, just hang with us. We will get those questions answered by the end. Our hope is that we will be wrapping up in about 30 or 35 minutes, depending how many questions you have, so that you guys can get on with the rest of your learning today. If you do have to jump off before we're done, that's okay. We're going to post this webinar on our YouTube channel and social media channels, and it will be posted on our website at azfbaitc.org by this afternoon as well. So you can go back and catch up on what you missed. All right. Well, without further ado, I am going to introduce you all to one of my favorite people. I have known Miss Ashlee since she was just a little kid. And so it is so fun to be able to work with her now as an adult. But to introduce to all of you, we have Ashlee Mortimer with Mortimer Farms on with us today. Good morning, Ashlee. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk all about pumpkins with you all today.
I love this. And what I notice is you're wearing a long sleeve shirt. Does that
Yes,
mean we've got some good weather there at the farm today?
we do. Yes, we're about an hour north of Phoenix and much cooler. So I am not feeling hot this morning. I had to put on my fall clothes to enjoy the fall weather this morning.
Well, there's nothing like a little crisp morning air to get us ready for fall and pumpkins.
Absolutely. All right. This first slide, is it my turn, Katie?
It is. Yes, ma'am. You're on a little delay, and I'm going to have to remember that. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. So this first slide is all about me. So I am working here at the farm with my entire family, and I am the CEO and the CMO, which means that I do pretty much everything. Bryce, my husband, he jokes around and says that I'm the chief everything officer. So anytime that something needs my attention, needs help, I am there to help with every department and in our kitchens, in our markets, in the fields. And then I also get the privilege of planning and being that helicopter over the farm to plan long term so that we can be as successful and smooth as we can be. My family has a rule that we need to be away from the farm for at least 5 years after we graduate high school. And so after I graduated high school, I went to U of A in Tucson and I learned all about agriculture marketing, which is where my passion is. I love to be able to teach people about where their food comes from and share firsthand what it is that farmers do on a real working farm every single day. And so after I went to U of A, I then worked for Arizona Cattle Growers and I published a magazine with them. And then I also helped share the story of ranching to the public. After that, the position that I started with here at the farm of marketing opened up and I came to my parents and said, I think that it's time that I come back to the farm. And we mutually agreed that it would be beneficial for myself and for the farm. And so I have been back at the farm for 6 years now and love every single moment of it. I have moved from marketing all the way to where I'm at now and now get to run a team and manage a team of over 100 people and get to be a part of the customers that come to our farm, their stories every single day, which is such a privilege to do. So that's a little bit about myself. And then these pictures are some of my favorite pictures of me and the animals and my niece Bee all here at the farm.
And Ashlee, I absolutely love that you shared with our friends that, your parents have a rule that you have to go away from the farm for 5 years before you're able to come back. And I love that because it's just a testament to how much our farmers and ranchers here in Arizona, these family operations, which the majority of them are, truly have a passion for what it is they're doing. They're not just doing it because, I was born into this and I have to do this. But you guys are actively making that decision and have this passion for producing the food and fiber for everyone. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. This next slide is a little bit about my family from long ago up until a few years ago. My parents both grew up on farms. My dad grew up in Iowa and he was on a corn and soybean farm, and my mom grew up in Harquahala Valley, which is right near Phoenix, on a cotton farm. And both of their families moved away from the farm when they were in elementary school. And so they knew when they met in Prescott, where we live now, that they wanted to raise their family in farming and ranching. They attributed a lot of the things that they were passionate about, a lot of the hard work that they had, the characteristics that they felt that made them because of how they grew up. And so they wanted to raise us like that as well. And so, a few years after they got married, we found a ranch that is where we live now that we raise cattle. And at that ranch, we were able to buy it and be able to start our family life there and learn all of the really important things that farming and ranching teaches us: how to work really hard, how to be caretakers of animals, how to be able to birth and help goats birth their babies and cows birth their babies, and all of the other things that we learned being on the ranch. Then, a few years later, we had the opportunity to move, or not move, but to take over the farm, which is where I'm at now. And so we farm here as well. So we have the ranch and the farm, and both are working together to be able to grow and raise food for our community and be able to also share the story of what farmers and ranchers do with the public.
And Ashlee, you have a couple of other business ventures there in Prescott as well. You want to just mention really quick about the nursery?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mortimer Nursery is where we started before the ranch, how we got our footing here in this area. And we still have the nursery to this day. And those three businesses, plus a few other side businesses, all really work together to be able to bring a full picture, a beautiful puzzle to what we do. The farm helps the ranch helps the farm, the nursery helps the both the others. And in Arizona, diversity of agriculture is really important. And that word means that we do a lot of different things, because when you just focus on one thing, it's really hard to be able to pay your bills and pay your mortgage. And so we rely on a lot of different things and have that puzzle all work together, even though sometimes it seems crazy that we do so many things. But it really helps us be able to pay our bills at the end of the day. And that is really important to be in agriculture. You have to be able to pay the bank back. You have to be able to pay for electricity and for your tractors and your trucks. And so to do all of those things, we have to bring in money from a lot of different areas. And that's where that diversity is so important.
I love that. Now, I know our friends are going to absolutely love this next slide.
Oh, yes, I love this next slide as well, because animals are so important to what farmers and ranchers do. And we have the privilege of taking care of so many different kinds of animals. At the ranch is where we raise most of our animals. So we have cattle at the ranch, horses, Pedro, the donkey, who's at the top of that screen. We have a sheep herd, we have pigs, turkeys, chickens, and more. And all of those animals, they help the environment and help the land as well. So when we're out at the ranch, which we take care of 38,000 acres, which is the same as 38,000 football fields. And we're taking care of that land with the help of our cattle and our other animals. And so not only are we raising those animals and every day taking care of those animals, but we're taking care of the lands there as well. And then we are able to bring some of those animals here to the farm so that you can have a first-hand experience petting the animals and feeding the animals, and we call that the animal encounter. So here at the farm you can see the goats and the chickens and the sheep and sometimes cows and sometimes horses, so that you can first-hand feel them and touch them and have a relationship with them as well.
Love that.
We also here at the farm focus on food production. So we focus on lots of vegetables and lots of berries and fruits. We grow 54 different kinds of crops here at the farm: peaches, tomatoes, cauliflower, strawberries, watermelon, peppers, and so much more. And all of those crops are grown on 324 acres. So a little bit smaller than the ranch, but a beautiful area that we can grow lots of different crops. On this slide, we're seeing eggplant, sweet corn, we're seeing garlic and blackberries, all of which we have a festival for as well. Any chance that we can have to throw a party, we take the chance because we love having a party here at the farm to be able to enjoy that different crop that we're harvesting, have our guests go into the field and harvest it themselves, eat that crop right off of the plant, and be able to have fun while doing so. Sweet corn is one of my favorite crops, and blackberries, two of my favorite crops here on this screen, because they both are so, so, so delicious right off the plant. Sweet corn, we have a bicolored corn that we grow. So it has yellow and white kernels, and it is so sweet that you can eat it raw, which is my favorite. I don't even cook it. I just take it off the plant, husk the corn, and eat it right in the middle of the field. And then blackberries, same thing. We're able to have the blackberries ripen all the way on the vine because we're so close to where we're selling those blackberries. And so those blackberries are so sweet and delicious and almost melt in your hand when you're taking them off the vine. And I love when they're still a little bit warm from the sunshine. They are so, so delicious. This is another description of all of the different crops that we have. So we also grow a lot of different kinds of flowers. Sunflowers are one of our most popular, but people love flowers and they also attract pollinators, which we'll talk about more in a second. We grow apples here at the farm, which are really big this time of year. We have apple cider donuts, apple cider, apple pie, apple turnovers, fall burger that has apple on it. So any way that we can eat an apple, we're doing it this time of the year. And that's my dad in the picture as well. So he is out there right now taking care of all of those crops and making sure that we are able to have all of the crops that we need in order to feed the people that are coming here to eat and to take home the food so that they can feed their families at home as well.
Love that. And I love that we were able to get a picture of your family in here and then your dad on this screen again. Because as you're talking about the size of the ranch, 38,000 acres, and the size of the farm, 324 acres, it takes a lot of people to manage all of the activities that are happening on that farm. So can you tell us a little bit about the employees that you guys have on the farm?
Yes, we have amazing people that are a part of our team, some of which have worked with my family for 25 and 35 years. Raymundo at the very bottom, he's wearing a Carhartt jacket and a baseball hat. He was my dad's first ever employee, and he has worked with my dad for 35 years. And his brothers are right above them. We have the three brothers that work here at the farm, and then have other employees that have worked here for a very long time as well. And it's really, they're part of our family. Jesus, he's not on this screen, but one of our team members, he met my nieces in the hospital the same time I met them. So it just shows how important our team is to us. It really is a movement that we feel like we're a part of, something bigger than ourselves. We're taking care of this land, we're feeding our communities, and we're taking care of our animals, and we're working so, so hard to do so. And these men and women that have worked on our team are right there beside us, breaking their backs in the field, enduring really cold weather and really hot weather, and doing all of that really, really hard work because we have this beautiful reason that we're doing it, and it's to feed people and to take care of this beautiful land. So we're so privileged to have such an amazing team that's standing right beside us during our main season, which is right now, our Pumpkin Fest and Corn Maze. We have over 100 different employees that work here at the farm that are a part of making the magic happen and growing food. And then year round, we have 40 people that work here at the farm. And a lot of that part of our core team have been here for years and years and years.
Man, we appreciate them and all the work they do for you guys. And of course, we appreciate everything that's being done at Mortimer Farms to produce food for the community and the state of Arizona, and for all the care that you guys do for the land. It's so cool to hear about the diversity of things that are going on. I love seeing all the crops. But I think it's time we start talking about these pumpkins you guys all have there.
Absolutely. We love pumpkin season. Every season that we have builds up to pumpkin season, which is the best season here at the farm because our weather is so beautiful. We're in Dewey, which is just an hour north of Phoenix, and we are so much cooler. And so you really get those beautiful fall temperatures, as we talked about earlier with my outfit of the day, and you get the fall leaves changing depending on what the weather is, and of course, pumpkins right alongside that.
Do you know about how many pumpkins you grow there on the farm each season?
Yes, we grow so many pumpkins. We have 175,000 pumpkins that we grow here at the farm. And we do a lot of different things with those pumpkins. We have them for sale here at the farm, so guests can go into the field and harvest pumpkins for themselves and see them right on the vine. We have pre-harvested pumpkins, so if people don't want to go in the field, they can get them already harvested by our amazing team. Photo ops, of course, because who doesn't love a pumpkin photo op? And then we also sell pumpkins across Arizona to other businesses. We sell them to army bases, to schools, to different pumpkin patches around Arizona. And then at the end of the season, we have leftover pumpkins, and we'll talk about what we do with those leftover pumpkins in a second.
I love that. I think they're really going to enjoy seeing what happens with those leftover pumpkins.
Yes.
But let's talk about how you grow those pumpkins on the farm.
So you have to start with a seed, and we get our seeds from a lot of different people. Every winter, we are planning how many seeds we need and looking at all of the different companies that we work with to purchase seeds to see who has the best price because we want to be able to be smart with our money so that at the end of the year we can pay all of our bills. And so we look at all of those different companies and pick which company we're going to use that year to purchase our seeds from. We grow 50 different varieties of seeds. So all of those seeds, every variety is a different kind of seed, which we'll talk a little bit more about what a variety is in a minute. But we have 50 different kinds of seeds that we need, and we mix all of those up when we're planting them. Before we can put those seeds in the ground, we have to prepare the field. And this is what's happening during the winter at the farm. We're growing food in our greenhouses, which are a temperature controlled area so that we can grow food even when it's snowing outside. And then in the outside fields, we're preparing the soil. Soil health is so important. We want that soil to be super, super healthy and have all the nutrients it needs to be able to grow food for us and pumpkins. And so we practice minimal tillage, which means that we till the land slightly to help get that natural matter and decomposable matter that's on top of the soil from the last crop into the soil so that it can start breaking down and add more nutrients to the soil. We also add manure to our field, so cow poop, and that is really beneficial for the land. Every year, multiple times a year, we test our soil to see what the soil needs, what the soil has too much of, and then we decide what we need to do for that specific field depending on what the soil tests are telling us. Every crop takes different nutrients out of the soil and adds different nutrients into the soil. So we rotate our crops around depending on what the soil needs so that we can make sure that we're always adding back to that soil.
I love that you guys sort of rely on what the soil is telling you for what you need to do next. I love that.
Then comes planting. So we use an amazing tractor to plant our pumpkin seeds. It is a self-driving tractor. It's called a Case IH tractor, and it's really, really big, and it literally can drive itself. It's connected to satellite and GPS, knows where it's at in the middle of the field, and the tractor, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The tractor plants those seeds in the specific space that it needs to be. And then we mix, like I said in the last slide, we mix all of those seeds together so that our fields are randomly planted so that you can go out and have a treasure hunt to find the perfect pumpkin. Then comes sprout. So we plant our pumpkin seeds at the beginning of June or the beginning of July, depending on what the weather is. Then it takes 90 to 120 days, depending on the different variety of pumpkin for us to have a fully ripe pumpkin. But this is the first step for that process to happen. So we plant that seed, then we see the sprout. And it's so important to take care of this pumpkin sprout because this pumpkin sprout is what's going to give us pumpkins at the end of the year. So we want to make sure that there are no weeds that are taking over that space, that that pumpkin seed and that sprout is getting the adequate water and sunlight that it needs, and that it looks like a super healthy plant. So we are taking care of that plant in the field and continuing to take care of it until we get the pumpkins that we're looking for. Watering is another thing that we need to have. So sunlight is super, super important for photosynthesis, and then water as well. And so here at the farm, in order to be super smart with our water, we use pivot irrigation to water our pumpkin fields. And that pretty much is a big sprinkler system above the ground, and it turns in a big circle around the field. And then we monitor how much water every field has with these soil monitors that you're seeing in this photo. This soil monitor is connected to an app on my phone, and it shows us at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, all the way to 12 inches deep, how much water is in the soil. And then we use that information to decide when we're going to water the fields based on what crop is there. So if it's a crop that needs less water, then we'll water the crop less, and we know exactly how much water is in the soil with this soil probe. And then if it's a crop that needs more water, we're not overwatering it because, again, we know exactly how much water is in the soil. So this soil probe monitor, moisture monitor is so important so that we can use our water as smart as possible, which is so important in Arizona.
And I love the sticker on the soil probe, the sensor. It says Aqua Spy, spying on the amount of water that's there. I love it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, then a very important part of the process is the bloom. So after we have that sprout, after we get that sunlight, after we have water to that crop, then we will see those vines start to really establish, and then we see a beautiful bloom. And this bloom is so, so important because it is what is pollinated, and then the bloom turns into a pumpkin.
And one of the things we're seeing here is that our pumpkin blossoms are typically that golden color. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Very similar to a squash blossom. So they're in the same family. Squash, zucchini, crookneck squash, pumpkins, they all have this similar blossom. And they open up for 1 day, and our million best employees ever, the pollinators, all of our bees go and pollinate every single flower. And when they're doing that, they're moving pollen from one flower to the next, and they're moving that flower around. And that is what pollinates that flower so that it has all of the things that it needs to be able to grow into a pumpkin.
So, question, Ashlee, do you just have pumpkin or do you just have bees that hang around all the time and pollinators that hang around all the time? Or is does something different happen when you are growing those 175,000 pumpkins?
Yes. So we are always trying to add to our environment to attract bees. So we're adding flowers. We are planting different crops that attract those bees because we want to have as many bees as possible. And then we also rent bees. So there are companies that is their main job is renting bees to farmers. And we do that. We rent beehives. They bring them in the middle of the night because that's when they're all in their hive, and they bring them to the farm. So we have additional bees that we bring in during our main growing season to be worker bees around and help pollinate all of our crops.
That is so cool. Something that I think a lot of people don't recognize that bees can be rented. Because we don't necessarily, when you're bringing thousands of people to the farm, want millions of bees on that farm at all times. So there are definitely times when you need more and when you want them to go pollinate something else.
Yes, and most of the time, bees, they are harmless. They are there to do a job. They're there to help us grow food. And so if you see a bee, just ignore the bee and it's going to ignore you. When you start messing with it, then it starts to think that it needs to defend itself. And so when there is a bee at the farm, I just thank the bee for all of the work it's doing and then move on, or just slowly blow at it, and then that also just helps them kind of go away out of your area. I have only been stung by a bee one time in my entire life, and I am around bees every single day. Bees land on me, bees are all over the place, and I just am calm, cool, and collected, and those bees just move on to their next business, go to their next flower, and help continue to pollinate here at the farm.
And that's such a great point. I'm so happy that you brought that up. I cannot believe that you've only been stung by a bee one time. On the other hand, they must love me or hate me because I've been stung several times and I'm not being mean to them. But one of the things that I learned from a beekeeper is that if you do get stung by a bee, if you put honey on it, it actually takes the sting away. And I didn't believe them until they slathered honey on my hand after I got stung when I was in their hives. And it does, it takes that sting away pretty instantly. So there is a tip in case you do get stung by a bee. Just go ahead and put some honey on it. Okay, so those bees that you guys rent and that you create an amazing environment for, they come and pollinate. And when that happens, what do we get?
We get baby pumpkins. So this is what we see right after the next step after the bees pollinate. And that baby pumpkin is starting to establish and starting to grow, and then it just continues growing and growing and growing and growing until we get to a ripe pumpkin. You can see the blossom at the very end of this pumpkin. That blossom will start to wither and dry because it's done its job, and now we have that pumpkin that is in its place. And here we are with a ripe pumpkin. We love ripe pumpkins here at the farm. There's so many uses for pumpkins. And earlier when I mentioned we grow 175,000 pumpkins, all of those can be found under these beautiful lush vines.
And we've been in a lot of classrooms, as you know, because Mortimer Farms is an amazing partner and sponsor of our ag literacy pumpkin life cycle presentations that's happening right now. And one of the things that they're learning in the story is, these ripe pumpkins come, but they're kind of hard to find in the midst of all of the great big leaves and vines that are in the garden or on the farm. So, can you sort of explain to them what happens to make those pumpkins more visible?
Yes. So, a few different things. One is you can see almost every step of the pumpkin life cycle when you're looking at a ripe pumpkin, because right next to it, you'll see blossoms, you'll see baby pumpkins, you'll see those beautiful leaves. And then in this photo or video, you're seeing all of the vines. So, the vines, they have super huge leaves, and that's so that they can attract and bring in as much sunlight as possible for photosynthesis. And so at the beginning of the pumpkin life cycle, you're getting those vines to be super big and beautiful. And the outcome of that is they're hiding all of the pumpkins underneath those big, beautiful vines. And so at the end of our warm season, when we start getting really cool nights, those vines will start to wither away. Pumpkins are super, super tough, and they are resilient to cold weather, but those vines are not. And so at the end of those pumpkins being grown and at the end of them being ripe, we'll get some cold weather and those pumpkins will start to wither away, or those vines. And then you'll be left with a beautiful sea of pumpkins that were all hidden underneath of those vines.
And that's some of what they're seeing right now are those pumpkins popping out of those vines in the field.
Yeah,
And it
such beautiful.
exposes all of the beautiful colors that you guys grow.
Yes. So I've been saying the word variety a lot. A variety is a different kind of pumpkin. Think about dog breeds. You can have a Chihuahua, you can have a cattle dog, you can have a German Shepherd, you can have a Lab. Same thing with pumpkin varieties. You can have lots of different kinds of pumpkins. So, of course, we grow our traditional orange carving pumpkins, and then we grow 50 other kinds of pumpkins: striped, warded, polka dot, big, small, colorful, not colorful, anything you can imagine you can get with a pumpkin. My two favorite varieties of pumpkins are on this slide. The first one is the top left corner. It's a pie pumpkin. So that is a pumpkin the size of your head or smaller, and it's super sweet and super great for making pies or making anything baked. And then to the right of that is a blue doll pumpkin. And this is actually the porcelain doll pumpkin, but the blue doll is my favorite color of this variety. And they also are super good to eat. Every single pumpkin is edible, so you can eat all different kinds of pumpkins and use them in all different kinds of things. I loved stuffed pumpkin. I put sausage inside of my pumpkin, and it's super good. Pumpkin pie, of course, pumpkin soup, lots of options to eat pumpkins, and it's super healthy for you.
Now, you've done a really good job of explaining how pumpkins grow, um, and the steps through that life cycle. But I know there's some challenges to growing pumpkins, just like there's challenges to growing all crops. Can you share some of those challenges that you guys have there on the farm?
Absolutely. Two of our biggest challenges I'll talk about. The first one is weeds. In this photo here, you can see on the left side, you can see grasses inside of that pumpkin plant or around that pumpkin plant. And then you can see as we go to the right, that right pumpkin doesn't have that extra plant there. Any plant that is not wanted is considered a weed. And the reason that weeds are so hard and such a huge challenge in farming is because they will take the nutrients from the soil, from the land, from the water, from the sun, and start choking out, we call it, the pumpkin or the plant that you want. And so we want to be able to give that pumpkin every chance that we can to be healthy and to grow and to produce a pumpkin at the end of the season. And so those weeds start to take those nutrients away from the pumpkin. And so we have to go in by hand and pick every single weed and remove the weed from the field. If we don't do that, then it takes those nutrients away from the pumpkin and the pumpkin cannot survive in some cases. And then it also adds more weed seeds to the field. And so then it just becomes more of a challenge every single year. And so we go in and remove those weeds as quickly as possible so that we can start to decrease the amount of seeds that are there for weeds so that we can one day hopefully not have as many weeds as we have now.
I can't imagine having to hand pull weeds on all of that acreage there at the farm. I know at my house, I get annoyed each week when I have to go pull the weeds, from my front and backyard. I can't even imagine that task there on the farm. But as you say, it is a very important task, which again makes you very appreciative for that large family of employees that you have there at the farm to help complete those tasks. Now, this next challenge is going to blow people's mind because I bet you this is something they have never in their life thought would be a challenge to a pumpkin farmer. What is that challenge, Ashlee?
This challenge is animals. So, especially at the ranch, but also here at the farm. So, we grow pumpkins at the farm and we grow pumpkins at our ranch, which is just 10 miles away. And there are wildlife, which we're taking care of the wildlife. We're giving them water. We are at the ranch helping grow native grasses out on the rangeland so that they have food to eat. That is part of our jobs as being ranchers. But when we have drought, like we had this year and for the last few years, there's not very many native plants out in the ranch and on the range. And so they come close to our house and close to the pumpkin field and start eating our crops. And so these are two photos in the middle of the night. They were taken a few weeks ago at 3 a.m. We have a really awesome scope that we can look through that gives us the ability to see at night. It's night vision, and we can see these deer that are in the field, and they're taking one bite out of every single pumpkin at the ranch. Here at the farm, we have a lot of javelina, and so those javelina, they go into the watermelon field, into the cantaloupe field, into the pumpkin field, into the corn field, and they take one bite out of all of our different crops. And so it's a challenge, but one that we just live with. Same thing with birds. We grow more than we know that we'll need because we want to be able to feed the wildlife, and there's no way to keep them out, especially when there's a drought and there's nowhere else for them to eat. And so they'll come and eat those pumpkins just like you're seeing in these two photos.
So when the wildlife is not harvesting the pumpkins for you, how do you get those pumpkins out of the field?
So our amazing team harvests pumpkins for us and our guests. So we have pumpkins that are already harvested that you can come and enjoy, take photos with, take home, or you can go out and harvest yourself in the field, which is such an amazing experience to see it growing right off the vine and see all of those stages of the life cycle that we already have talked about. And so here's some photos of Jose. He's on the left-hand side. He's harvesting a pumpkin, and these men that are out in the field, it is not for the faint of heart. They are so strong. They have the biggest muscles ever, and they are amazing because they are harvesting such heavy things and doing it repetitively. It's like going to the gym for an entire day, 12, 14, 15, 16 hours a day at the gym. And then on the right hand side is one of our guests. We have what we call pumpkin Jenga on the last weekend of Pumpkin Fest. And so a guest can pile up as many pumpkins as they can fit in a wagon and stack them and balance them. And then we have a pumpkin Jenga price for as many pumpkins as can stack in that wagon. And so that's one of our customers a few years ago. He harvested all those pumpkins and stacked them and balanced them in that wagon for pumpkin Jenga.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm there on the last weekend
Okay,
for a
this
little
weekend, come on
pumpkin
over.
Jenga. Oh my goodness. I bet you some of our kids would fill that wagon a little bit bigger.
Yes,
These students that we get to work with every day, they are builders.
love that. That's amazing.
All right, so what happens with the pumpkins that you don't sell through Pumpkin Jenga and cook into amazing things there at the farm? What do you do with those?
At the end of the season, we feed all of our leftover pumpkins to the cattle and to the sheep. Cattle and sheep really love the pumpkins. They are super rich in nutrition, and they're a natural dewormer. And so it is one of the ways that we have the ranch and the farm work together. And so at the end of the season, we'll bring the cattle and the sheep to the farm and bring them into the fields, and they'll eat those pumpkins, and they just love them. They devour them. They think it is the best treat of the whole year, and it's super healthy for them as they're eating all those pumpkins.
Oh my gosh. That is just a sight to see, I'm sure, as people are driving past the farm there in Dewey, Arizona. Well, Ashlee, that finishes our time here with you today. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us, teaching us how pumpkins grow, and all of the care that you guys take there at the farm to produce food for folks here in Arizona and beyond. It is always nice to have a little insight on what's happening on farms and ranches, since so many of us don't have the opportunity to live and work and experience that each day. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that your family does as well. And again, thank you for just the time this morning. We sure do appreciate you. And hopefully we'll catch up with you guys again on another crop or livestock later on down the road.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's so fun to bring you guys virtually to the farm and talk all about what we're doing here at Mortimer Farms.
I love it. We'll talk to you later, friend.
See you later.
Bye bye. Oh, hey, Ashley, are you still on there?
I am. Hello.
Hey, so a couple of questions popped up after I stopped share. So people want to know what's your dog's names? Do you have dogs and what's their name?
Um, yes. The dog, I'm trying to think of what dog was in there. Mika was the dog that was
With the
on the slide.
goats.
Yep, with the
Yep,
goats.
Mika
Yep.
with the goats. And you
Yep.
have another guardian dog there as well, right?
Yes, our other guardian dog's name is Akita. And then I have two, well, we're a family of dog lovers. I have two cattle dogs, Stella and Steel, and then between all of us, I think we have 12 dogs between all of our family members.
Okay. And if they hang out with us in the spring, they might get to learn a little bit more about those guardian dogs, their name and what they do. So people be on the lookout for that for spring. Our next question is, I think you answered this. It was how long does it take for pumpkins to grow? I know it depends on the variety of pumpkin, but about how long?
90 to 120 days, depending on the variety.
Man. And you guys grow 50 different varieties of pumpkins, so there definitely is that span there.
Yes.
And then one of our eighth graders wants to know which of the crops is the most challenging to grow and preserve?
Ooh, this is a great question. It all depends on the year and what challenges come that year. Being a farmer, every year, every turn, every day has different challenges that we can't predict. And so every year that crop changes. This year, our most challenging crop was blackberries, which usually is not the case because they're very resilient and they are very easy to grow in our area. But over this last winter, our wild rabbits here at the farm came and ate the very outer bark of every single blackberry vine. And so when it was in its dormant state, it negatively affected that blackberry crop when it came out of its dormant state. And so we didn't have as many blackberries as we usually have because those rabbits really damaged those vines. But it seems like the plant itself is okay. So we're hoping that the rabbits will find something else to eat this year and we'll leave our blackberry vines alone.
Oh my goodness. It is definitely a balance between nature and farming, isn't it? It isn't. Well,
Yes,
hopefully you'll
absolutely.
see lots of blackberries at blackberry season and blackberry festival will be a hit again this year. I know it's one of my favorite crops as well, but that wraps it up for all of our questions. Thanks for hanging on that couple of extra minutes. We'll catch up with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.